Hello, and my name is Jonathan Spencer. Today I'm going to be talking about the downfall of CallMeCarson because I'm sure, just like me, you guys have been wondering what's happened to this guy. He's popular, and then he fell off the face of the internet one day. So I just want to go over everything between his grooming and child predator allegations and just other stuff that happened during his career that, definitely caused a decline in views. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn post notifications on, or you can wait until the end of the video so I can earn it. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, to take off the drip and just be real for a second is, I don't know if I can stick to daily uploads because it's easy to get burnt out of editing. Like, it's really easy to get burnt out of editing. So I think I'm going to do more of an every other day type thing. Just that way I have more time to focus on myself and the things I care about, the people I care about. With that being said, every other day, it won't be daily anymore. Just wanted to sit there and be real for a second because I don't know if I can stick to a consistent every day, but I can definitely do an every other day type thing. Without further ado, let's talk about CallMeCarson.
So what happened to CallMeCarson between predator allegations, him just being rude and manipulative, and just being the most popular person for a very long time. Also, really quick, I hope you FW with the gameplay, because what I'm sure a lot of people don't know is this YouTube channel used to be a IRL skateboarding YouTube channel. I think personally we should start towards the very end of CallMeCarson's career. Holy voice cracks, I'm something else this morning. Bringing in the Discord screenshots, let me read it out to you. Good night, man. Sure, this was fun. Yes, have a good time. Night, man, it's been so hard not messaging you. Hope all is well. It's been hard not messaging you as well. I'm doing a lot better. Hope you're feeling good too. Okay, not gonna lie, it's been really fucking hard not messaging you. Why is that? And that's where the screenshots cut off. Now, you might be wondering, hey, Jonathan, why the heck are you showing me some random screenshots? It looks like he's just talking to a girl. Well, what you don't know is this girl is 17 years old and CallMeCarson is 19. Which, even though, yes, it's only a 2-year age gap, he's still an adult and she's a minor, so it's seen as being, manipulative and taking advantage of this girl. And this is also after he told the entire internet that he wasn't messaging her anymore. This is after all of his friends came out and was like, yes, he told us about this. This is real. Like, he was feeling really bad about this. The entire Minecraft lunch club coming out and, just saying bad things against Carson. Now, the reason this is seen as manipulative and bad is because look at what he's saying. I mean, he's saying it's really hard not messaging you. Like, they were sexting back and forth, sending nudes and stuff, and now all of a sudden they're not talking. And he's like, it's really hard not messaging you. And, he's telling the entire internet he's not messaging her anymore, and he's doing better for himself, and he's clearly not if he's messaging her still. My thing is, I don't think that age gap is actually bad. I think it was blown out of proportion, and I honestly think that it ruined a dude's life who kind of didn't deserve it. However, CallMeCarson did do a lot of other things that were kind of just very bad. Like, for instance, did you know whenever CallMeCarson was in the very beginning of his YouTube career, he had a podcast, and he did it with narrator and raccoon eggs. I'm sure you guys remember raccoon eggs. I loved raccoon eggs when I was younger. During this podcast, they would, talk back and forth just about stuff they enjoyed. And as the podcast went on, narrator and CallMeCarson would start to argue a lot, and the podcast would end. CallMeCarson would then take over the entire YouTube channel just to post a video about what happened, telling his truth. But it was just, it came off as manipulative and just not the whole truth. And narrator ended up falling off the internet after that because, he couldn't take that backlash. But as you can see, this has built a history of manipulative and just bad behavior with CallMeCarson. And if he's willing to do one thing, what else is he willing to do? If he's willing to go back and text that girl after he told the entire internet he's not texting that girl, then what else is he willing to do? Is he willing to text younger girls? I hate to say this, but he's not the most attractive guy in the world. And whenever somebody doesn't think highly of themselves, they are very, very likely to go and do something. This includes stuff like sexting a minor. He was 19 and that's a 17-year-old, which even though that's not that bad of an age gap, it is still illegal. Like, if you're an adult and you are sending nudes to a minor, you can get arrested. There is loopholes for this, like the Romeo and Juliet law, which says if you're within 4 years age of a person, then you can indeed do this and you will not get arrested. But that law does not exist for nudes. Nudes, you can still get arrested for. It's more of like, sex in real life. And obviously it would be different if it was like a loving and caring relationship, but this is an online relationship that he formed with a fan of his. And that's where more of the manipulation I was talking about comes into play as well, because he's using that power he had over the internet to form a relationship with a minor. The fact of the matter is, he knew it was wrong. He actively told his friends he knew it was wrong and he kept doing it. And if somebody knows something's wrong and they keep doing it, they are going to do it again and again. And it can get worse and worse every single time. If it's a 17-year-old this time, what if it's a 13-year-old next time? And if it's a 13-year-old next time, what if it's a 5-year-old next time? Now, obviously, that's an exaggeration, but the idea of saying that is, hey, this is a repeated behavior and it's not going to stop. He also tried many a times to come back to YouTube, even with like everybody knowing exactly what happened. He never tried to apologize for it. He just was like, yep, I did that, and tried to stay on YouTube. And obviously people didn't like that and they aren't watching him. So he kind of just fell off the platform from there. Now I will show you the narrator video on why the solitary confinement podcast was shut down, to just give a little bit more input on how other people viewed it that wasn't Call Me Carson.
Idea who the hell I am. And that's okay. My name's Narrator, and I used to be best friends with Call Me Carson. I actually started YouTube around the same time as him, along with my other friend Raccoon Eggs. We all blew up together around the same time. But you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I know who Carson is, and I know who Raccoon Eggs is, but I have no idea who you are.
Now right here to give you a little bit of detail, he is talking about the solitary confinement podcast. He blew up together with them. They were all friends and they all made content together.
And you're right. And that was intentional, but not by me.
Sorry to splice this up so much and give you little pieces and kind of blue ball you a little bit, but this, I'm going to cut it to where he starts to talk about Call Me Carson and what he did to him.
I'm not going to address the allegations. I'm going to say that from what I've been told by multiple people who I would trust very deeply, that I believe them 100%. It sounds like something Carson... Well, no, it doesn't. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem. Is it doesn't sound like something he would do. And it's really fucking hard. But the reason that I believe them, and I'll skip the whole SCP shit for the most part, the reason why I have no reason not to believe them and why I think that they are 100% telling the truth and why I'm 99.99999% sure that these aren't lies is because they've had to deal with Carson in a very similar way that I have.
Now, with us already going over a small portion of the texting minor allegations, I would like to just mention that I'm not going to show any more of him talking about that. I'm just going to show his experiences with Carson and how just bad of a person he was in general around him.
Me and Raccoon Eggs were Carson's basically first internet friend content creators. And it was fun working with Carson at first, because the worst part about it all is that he's a genuinely funny guy, and I've genuinely had great times hanging out with him in person. But working with him is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life. Doing that podcast with him was one of the hardest fucking things that I've ever had to do in my fucking life. And it's because of episodes like episode 24 of SCP or other episodes whenever I'd lash out. Because the best way to describe Carson is that he doesn't turn off. A lot of people, especially when he was blowing up, they're like, oh, this is funny. Haha, nice act. Or when he'd stream, haha. But he's always like that. Always. At least when he's talking to you. Whenever you need to talk seriously with him, whenever there's things you need to discuss, whenever, and this is my experiences, whenever you would have a problem with him, or there was something that you needed to talk about, that you just, or if you just wanted a fucking friend to talk to and genuinely listen to you, if you were going through something hard or anything, he would never take it seriously. He would always keep pushing, constantly.
I know for a fact that most people would hate to be around a person like this. If somebody just kept pushing and wasn't genuinely being a friend, was more focused on content creation than anything, then I'd probably be pretty upset. I'd feel like my friend's betraying me too. And that's why I think this is genuinely hard for him.
And there's a few examples I have, but in the grand scheme of things of what we just watched, it's nothing. But it's more so that I want anybody else, if you've worked with Carson, know that you're not alone. Because I was until a couple months ago, at least in my head. So there was the time where Carson had hijacked the Twitter account multiple times, just without telling us. And we'd ask him, hey, give it back. Hey, what are you doing? This isn't funny. Shit like that. And he'd laugh at us. Or during serious situations. Like on SCP, I had many mental breakdowns that a lot of people thought were scripted, and they weren't. And they never were. And while it may have been funny as fuck, towards the end of it, once you heard those uncomfortable conversations, there was a reason they were uncomfortable. But I could never really say anything about it because I was the smallest fry in the group. So, whenever I'd air my grievances or try to talk to anybody about it, Carson, Ezra, anybody, they would all just think it's part of the joke. They'd think it's part of the bit. So for a year and a half, that was my life. Was that just nobody takes anything seriously because of working with Carson and because of his success and the new audiences that he would bring in. And it was really hard.
I do just want to mention right here, this isn't the first time Carson had hijacked one of their social media accounts. It happened multiple times, and I will show you a clip later on where he, took control of the YouTube channel and uploaded an entire video about how, it's all narrator's fault, it's all Rack's fault, it's not his fault at all. I can only imagine the pain that comes with being around somebody who can't admit they are wrong. It just sounds like a terrible situation, especially because he mentions later on that he has BPD. You're around somebody who's constantly making fun of you. It's just not the ideal situation. And not only that, but he manipulated and just acted like that so much that other people were desensitized to it. This person had problems, and they knew he had problems, like genuine mental health problems that he couldn't, control all the way, and they end up doing this. It's kind of ridiculous. The amount of empathy I feel for this person, because I know I personally could not take that amount of crap from other people. So the amount of empathy from me that just goes to him, I feel terrible hearing about this, and I wish I personally could help more, but I can't, obviously. It will always break my heart to hear friends treating each other like that. It's just not great. It's not a great situation to be in, and I've had a lot of friends treat me like that as well.
Because him and Raccoon were really my only friends, and I don't blame Rack for how he acted, because we were dumb kids, and I don't even think he knew that it wasn't necessarily a bit, but once I stressed it, he stopped. He would empathize with me. Carson wouldn't. Carson would just keep going. And so I put it in the wrong order on my list, but now is time to address the VidCon and where it really kind of all fell through, and why SCP isn't anymore, and why this I'm speaking out at all. I have a couple, not screws loose, but I have BPD and Asperger's, and it's been I'm more adjusted now, but in 2017, 2016, 2018, I was pretty good, but not the best. And so I had medication that I had to take. Lamictal and Concerta. The only reason I'm telling you this is because in 2018, in June, one of the last weeks of June, for SCP, since Carson was getting huge and Rack was already huge, we decided, hey, it'd be cool if we went to VidCon. During the VidCon trip, I'll go over the whole VidCon trip and why it was bad, VidCon 2018. So we get an Airbnb. And the Airbnb was a scam. I was flying in from Detroit to LA. And I got the first flight. Both Carson and Rack and I believe Altrive. Josh was already there. And I think, well, no, Noah joined a bit later. So I was the first one there, and I found out that it was a scam and that we didn't have an Airbnb and that I had just flown in to LA for the first time ever flying anywhere, really, going on a vacation so far away from home, and I didn't have any kind of a plan. I didn't know what the fuck to do. And so I text Carson, and I'm like, hey, the Airbnb's fake. Shit like that. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? And I'm not on my meds at this point, and this is my fault. It doesn't excuse my behaviors during VidCon, but it at least lets you know why I did some of them. I don't excuse any of the behavior, and I will apologize to everybody individually over this. But eventually they got my messages, and they're like, what are you talking about? And so I was at VidCon at that point, calming down a bit, meeting people that I knew, and or had recognized, or people I was friends with. So I was a bit calmer, but I was like, hey, yeah, we don't have a place to stay. But so we were kind of fucked. So we just went around VidCon. All of us had our suitcases, and then we found a motel for the night. But this was like my first big trip. This was most of our first big trips. And we had to stay in a shitty motel next to a Denny's. And needless to say, a manic me wasn't really taking it very well once we left VidCon from the safe area of, hey, we're here, it's whatever. So I was panicking because I can't afford a new flight home. I'm already here. Like, what the fuck's going on? So I was having a manic episode basically right when I woke up. And this goes back to some of the, if you're an SCP listener and you liked the Solitary Confinement podcast, any of those times that I was having a mental breakdown, like in the podcast, the thing with it there is that I was in a safe space. I was in my room. It was fine. I could leave. I could walk away, whatever. We can make a joke about it. It's fine. But when you're in that situation, and they had known because we had done the podcast for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and we were very good friends. So they knew full well the shit that I was going through, because I was going through a lot of shit. And I hadn't been officially diagnosed with BPD yet. I had just had MDD. So the doctors didn't even really know why I was going through these manic episodes. But they had known about this kind of shit. And when I say Carson doesn't turn off, he doesn't. And when you're having a manic episode and you're just being harassed constantly, think about it like this. This is the best way I can sum it up for you guys. Think about when like your dad comes into your room and he's like reminding you, hey, do this and this and this. And you're like, okay, I got it. And then he gets mad at you. So he keeps like doing it and he keeps reminding you, and it makes you mad because it's like, I get it. And he gets annoying. And then eventually like you might just start yelling and shit like that. But like that annoyance right there, multiply that by 1,000. And that's the situation that I was in, because I was stressing out and Carson was just making fun of me.
Now, if you want to watch the rest of this, it is re-uploaded all over YouTube. You can find clips of it pretty much everywhere on YouTube if you look it up, like look into it very slightly. But obviously, this isn't a great guy to be around if he's constantly making fun of you and he knows you have mental issues and you're going to either go off and you're in a situation that's obviously making you very, very, very upset. You don't know how you're going to get home, and it's just a terrible situation for him, and Carson just made it 20 times worse, not even that, a million times worse at that. This is where you tend to see that he's a bad guy, just not a great person to be around, but everybody wants to be around him to grow their channels. That is one thing Carson was very, very good at, was growing his channel and growing other people's channels by being around him, because he stuck with Minecraft and a lot of Minecraft. You know who enjoys Minecraft? Kids. And that's why it's so easily believable that he will go after a kid, because a lot of Minecraft YouTubers have done that. It's just something that happens in that community. If you happen to be a parent watching this, absolutely keep your kids away from that game. Keep them away from YouTubers that are doing that. Keep them away from social media that they can access talking to people like that, because those people will go after them. They are predators. Maybe not every single one of them, like how people say, hey, all cops are bad. Not all cops are bad, but how I'm saying, hey, you know, Minecraft YouTubers tend to be like this. You know, not all of them, but a good majority of them. Now, I did say I wanted to show you another clip where Carson had hijacked their YouTube channel and just basically blamed the entire situation on Narrator, which wasn't fair to Narrator at all. So let me show you that, so this past clip that I've been showing you for the past couple minutes makes sense.
The confinement group is officially split up. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be confused and want to know what's happening, so I brought a whiteboard. The first thing you guys need to know is it's completely my fault. Do not blame anyone but me for the podcast ending. I personally took issue with some narrators' actions, and that led to a waterfall of events to where we are now. So it all started with VidCon. The convention was great, we had a super fun time, but there were many instances where Narrator would do something that I would disagree with, and it would lead to a response from him that I would consider uncalled for. So after VidCon, I spoke to Rack. I went up to him like this, and I said, Rack, I don't really want to do the podcast with Narrator anymore. I'm gonna leave. Woo, there I go. That's an arrow. And then Rack was like, well, if you're going, I might as well go myself. So, there he goes. Afterwards, I get back from my trip and I plan to announce Spit Take in the coming weeks, and I let the people in my stream know what's going on, so they had a little insider info. Ciao. About 2 days in, after I got back from my trip, Narrator tweeted on his personal Twitter account about how Rack and I had not kept him in the loop. Now, personally, I don't think there was anything to keep him in the loop on. All we had decided on was a name. But these tweets led to many fans saying that Rack and I were acting like children. I haven't personally spoken to Narrator since then. I'm sure he's going to watch this video. I tried hearing him out, but he didn't really send any more messages to me. So I just kind of assume we're not on speaking terms anymore. A few days later, Rack came to me and said, I'm not sure I want to do Spit Take anymore. It feels unfair to Narrator, which I completely understood. Instead, he's going to be doing a podcast with JC called Homie Talk, which I'm very excited for. I think it'll be a great podcast. I'm in full support of it, and you guys should be too. And that brings us up to the present pretty much. With fans in disarray, everyone's confused on what's happening, and I'm here to crush people's dreams. As of right now, like I said, the solitary confinement group is officially split up. And like I said before, if there's anyone to blame, it's me. If I had not chosen to express my issues with Narrator, then the podcast would still be together. Now, I personally think Narrator's a terrible person, but that should not in any way affect how you see him. Please continue to support him and don't let any petty behind-the-scenes problems affect how you see us. This stuff happens to everyone. It just so happens that this is a very public friendship.
Now, to give my opinion a little bit, I think this was completely unnecessary. You have to remember that he completely hijacked the channel. Nobody else had access to the channel whenever he uploaded this. This was completely one-sided. You only got one part of the story for a very long time until Narrator uploaded that video I showed you earlier. He also calls Narrator a bad person and then says, oh, well, what I say shouldn't affect what you think. But when you say something, it's definitely going to affect what another person thinks. And with him saying he personally took issue with stuff Narrator said, that's just, you know, as Narrator said, he was making fun of him, and then Narrator would get upset, and then Carson would take issue with him getting upset. That's not him taking issue with Narrator or something Narrator said. It's him taking issue with something he said. And this was the leading cause that split up a group that just was very popular on YouTube, and it could have, boosted narrator. Instead of wanting better for his friend and trying to work with his friend, he just completely knocked him out of existence on the internet. And this was a huge power play and power trip, which is just something I hate. When somebody uses their power and influence to put a smaller person down, it's just, there's nothing narrator could have done in that situation at the time with how popular Carson was. I personally think that it was really messed up that Carson and Raccoon Eggs, as his friend who knew, as his friends that knew he was going through manic episodes, just decided to leave it at that, keep him out of the loop, and just ignore him. I think that's ridiculous. And by him saying there was nothing to keep him in the loop about, like, you ended the podcast without telling him, and you're ignoring him. There was something to be said. So from the very, very, very start of Call Me Carson, you can see the manipulative behavior, and you could just see him going off and doing things for no reason. And I think that's why it can be very well connected to him being a child predator, and I think that he is one, if I'm completely honest. However, with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that, and I gave you all the information I could find personally, because a lot of this stuff has happened, years ago at this point.
Hello, and I'm back in a completely different location. This is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are at. And with that being said, I think that entire situation is kind of crazy, absolutely buck wild. It's something else. So how somebody that large can do that? That large isn't that big of a creator. Without further ado, though, if you enjoyed the video and I have earned your like and subscription, please like and turn post notifications on with that subscribe.
Here, sus.